Hi, my name's Melanie Smith. I am the founder of Metanoia ConsultingServices. I am about to be the guest on the Online Prosperity Show talking about leadership, humanity, and building your career.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And today, we've got a guest whose journey is as inspiring as it's transformative. Now, Melanie, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the show today. It's been a long time in the making, and finally, we've gotten you to sit down with me so that we can, explore your journey. So thank you so much for making the time.
You are so welcome. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Great stuff. Now, for those that are watching right now, thank you too for joining us on the Online Prosperity Show. But I want you to imagine something. Imagine dedicating over 15 years in senior corporate roles, only to just have a sudden governmental shift, and that then turns your world upside down. Sometimes some of these things just show up, and if you're not prepared for them, they might actually really take you in a wrong direction. But my question to you is, what would you do? What would you do when things that are beyond your control just suddenly happen? Well, I'll tell you something. Our guest today, Melanie Smith, faced that same exact scenario. So instead of her seeing an end to that, she actually saw a beginning to the world that she now leads to. And it now became a chance for her to pursue her true passion. She went on and founded Metanoia ConsultingServices, which is a beacon for leadership development and change management. So the reason why I'm excited about this is because today we're going to be diving into Melanie's remarkable story, also explaining the unexpected challenges that can actually lead to profound personal and professional growth. And we'll also uncover the methods she's employing to empower her clients, and also discuss why her approach resonates deeply in today's ever-evolving business landscape. So stay with us as we navigate the twists and turns of Melanie's journey, and also offering insights that might actually mirror your own experiences. Now, Melanie, I could go on and on. I've been so eager to have you on the show. Maybe you can start by telling us your transition from the corporate roles that you were holding, and what actually happened at the time that you then decided to start your own consulting firm.
Yeah, sure. So I spent about 20 years, showing my age, working in people and culture roles, and held quite senior roles in a bunch of different organisations. I've worked across a range of different industries and sectors. And I would say for probably the last 10 years of that corporate career journey, I really had this deep desire to launch my own coaching business. I really wanted to work with people one-on-one to help them progress in their leadership, in their careers, to be more effective as leaders. And I never really had an avenue to pursue that. So I did it as part of the work that I was doing, but I was still doing all of the other pieces of the work that a generalist people and culture practitioner does. And as you said at the beginning, then I was working in state government for a little agency. And when the government changed hands, the switch occurred after the election. There was a period of time, but the agency was abolished. Now, for a lot of people, as we were going through the transition of this agency being abolished and looking at opportunities and moving out, a lot of people were really concerned about what that meant for them and for their careers. For me, I had this moment where I was like, maybe this is meant to happen. Maybe this is the chance for me to actually take that leap of faith with myself and start my coaching business. And I didn't land there right away, to be honest. I kind of finished up. I took a break. I traveled. We went to Senegal and West Africa, where my partner's from. And if you really want to get some headspace to think about what you want to do with your life, Africa is, as you would know, a beautiful place to go and disconnect and explore yourself and, you know, just really kind of be away from what was my normal corporate experience. And when I came back, as I started to look down the prospect of getting a corporate job or starting my own business, at first I was kind of like, well, how can I do both? Maybe I can do some coaching on the side while I'm looking at the corporate kind of roles. And my heart almost sank. I had this feeling inside me where it was like, if you really want to do this coaching thing, if you really want to step out and actually make a difference in the way that you've always wanted, perhaps you just have to take the leap and jump and do it. And so I remember very distinctly, it was like a Tuesday afternoon, and I called my partner and I was like, maybe I stopped looking for jobs and maybe I just launched the business. And he said, like, go for it, right? You've been talking about this forever. Maybe he just got sick of hearing it. But so I launched, I got an ABN, I got a business name, and I launched. And then, like, all in the same day. And then I literally sat back. It was kind of like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what the next step is, but I knew, I knew that I had the passion and the drive that I would work it out. And that's kind of how I started.
Absolutely. And what a journey. What a journey. But I've got a question for you, Melanie. Oh, yeah. I do. It's an interview. Had that shift in the government not occurred, would you have gone on and started your journey?
I would like to say yes, but the reality is I don't know, to be honest. I think that sometimes in life, things happen for a reason, and sometimes there's a catalyst right there. It's like it's giving you these alternate pathways, and you have to make a choice. And if that hadn't have happened, I'm confident I'd still be in corporate right now. And maybe it's something that would have happened further down the track, further into the future. But I kind of felt that it was everything just kind of aligned and it was meant to be. So that's why I took that leap of faith.
You know, when people are growing up, they usually have like some sort of a goal or a dream or something they always wanted to do. Was HR a part of that? Because I've got a 6-year-old girl and she told me she wants to be a witch. So I'm not quite sure at what point you had.
She could succeed at that now. She doesn't have to wait until she's older. Look, for me, I wasn't that intentional about what I wanted to be when I grew up, when I was young. I didn't even know what was possible. So I grew up in a family where, my mum was the first in her family to go to university, and she became a scientist. So, and that was as a mature age student. So I didn't really have this example of corporate life in my kind of history. So for me, it was a little bit of fumbling, and I think maybe that's why I enjoy doing what I do. But I didn't really know how to get to where I needed to go. I hustled my way through things, right? And so when I first got into my career, I started to see how other people moved around me and what success kind of looked like. And I took bits and pieces from different people. So I didn't emulate one way or one person. I was like, oh, I like that bit and I like that bit, and maybe I could take some of that on. And I think really I kind of worked it out on my own. One of the key things for me was I always wanted to be authentic to myself. So it didn't matter where I worked or what I did. Being true to me was probably the most critical thing. So, yeah, if I had had a career goal when I was younger, like the things that I wanted to do, like I went through a phase where I wanted to be an actress, where I wanted to be a vet, where I wanted to be like all sorts of different things. But I didn't really, through my high school years, have that kind of focus. It wasn't until after I'd finished high school that I started to think about what were my passions and where would that align to study. And then even when I was studying, I was still a bit confused. There wasn't a lot of guidance and support through those years. So I just kind of worked it out as I went.
Absolutely. It's a good thing you didn't take up acting, because then you'd have to fight for your name with, Melanie Smith, the Rachel from Seinfeld, and, things like that. But I like how, when you sort of, the work sort of ceased, you went on and did that trip to Africa. Tell me, what was that experience like? Because it's quite interesting. Some people go for the animal aspect, but you already were dealing with people. Did you meet any sort of interesting characters or any interesting moments that you still remember up until now?
Oh man, so I should start by saying I've been connected to different African communities for quite a long time. Where I went to university, there was a lot of international students. So lots of Kenyans, Ugandans, Rwandans, Botswanans were part of my university journey. So I've been in and around African communities in Sydney, Australia for a very long time. So I think the Senegal experience for me was phenomenal. So my partner is Senegalese. Obviously, we were going to visit family. And if you talk about characters, like I feel like everyone's a character in some way, shape or form in Senegal. There's a few things that stand out to me, I think. So for me, I don't speak French, and his family speaks Wolof. I also don't speak Wolof. But the warmth and the welcome and the seeking to understand was beautiful, is the first thing I would say. I think that in Senegal, they have this thing called Teranga, and Teranga is basically like, it's the way that they're basically called the country of hospitality. So they will make you feel welcome. Everybody's there to help you. You read all the smart traveler things before you go overseas. In Australia, everyone's like, read Smart Traveler. And all of the stuff in there that they talked about was all danger, danger, danger. And I did not experience any of that in Senegal at all. In fact, quite the opposite. So for me, the things that stood out were A, the culture, B, the diversity of the landscape there. I just didn't expect it. I thought that it would be a very dry country overall, but there's all these beautiful rivers and waterways. The history in Senegal is really significant as well. You've got one of the major slave ports from Africa was there at Gorée Island. So visiting there, it's very challenging, to be honest. But you've got all of these beautiful cultural pieces of food. Don't even get me started on the food. I travel the world to eat food, and I love Senegalese food. But yeah, everyone's a character in Senegal. I happened to be there at the time when a Senegalese wrestler who, in the neighborhood that my sister-in-law lives in, he's from that neighborhood, and he won his wrestling match that day. And I've got videos of people just running up and down the street, just chanting his name. Everybody's just going crazy. It's like events like that where you don't see that in Australia, not in the same way. And just the openness and the humor, everyone is laughing all the time. Even if they are in hard circumstances, everybody is laughing all the time. They can always see the bright side of life. So I think there's so much that stands out. I could talk for 10 hours on my trip to Senegal, but I won't.
The reason why I brought this up is very crucial to obviously having to deal with people. Because in life, when you can extend empathy and understand that another person and another human being is different, but they are living life and they were growing up without your involvement, I think that's great leadership, ingredients right there, because so many people that then end up becoming leaders have never had to experience anything outside of their everyday route. So this might have been somewhat of a rite of passage for you, Melanie, for what you are now going to embark on, for the rest of your journey. I don't know how you feel about that sentiment.
Yeah, I think that's really a very important point, particularly for Australian leaders. So if I go back 10 years, I moved to Singapore for a project that I was working on. And I have always been, in my life, I've always been surrounded by extraordinarily diverse people. And when I went to Singapore, I was like, I'm going to go to Singapore and I'm only going to hang out with Singaporeans. I'm not going to do this expat thing that everybody does when they go overseas. And then I moved to Singapore and I found it really tough being the outsider, right? The non-dominant culture. I tripped over myself all the time, and I got feedback that, you Australians come to Singapore and you're like a bull in a china shop. You are too direct, too hard. You don't know how to communicate. And it really opened up my eyes. All of a sudden, I started to seek out other Australians just to be able to converse without thinking, to be able to have that relaxed kind of two-way conversation without being worried about offending someone or doing something unintentional, right? And so I feel like that really shaped my leadership journey, because when I came back to Australia and I was working in a professional services firm, and I had this partner talking to me about the performance of a Singaporean lady in his team. And he's like, she doesn't speak up. She doesn't put her opinions on the table. I'm not sure if she's on track for promotion. And I was like, hold on a second. So what's her cultural context? And he just looked at me blankly. And I'm like, I can tell you, I've just spent 12 months in Singapore. And in Singapore, an individual is never going to speak up against a senior person in a meeting. They're never going to put their opinion on the table if a senior person has really overtly put their opinion on the table. So how else can you engage this person to get what you need out of them or to get the best out of that person? And I had it's mind blowing just from that perspective. But then I had a Senegalese man who I knew who said to me, how was Singapore? And I said, it was really tough. And I hadn't expected it. And he said, you know what, Mel? More white Australians, like born here, Caucasian Australians, need to go and live in another country, because then you'll understand what it's like to have to think before you speak, to have to sense check the way that you're showing up in an environment, to have to be mindful of how you're contributing ideas. And, this is in the era of assimilate or go home. And he said it is tough, and not enough Australians travel or live in another country to actually understand that experience. So he's like, I'm glad that you've had that experience. Now we just need many more. And I would have considered myself an extraordinarily open person to different cultures, different languages, different ways of doing things. But until you've experienced what it's like to be the outsider, it's very, very different. Very, very different.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you've had that, because so many, like I said, really are failing at leadership just simply because, even if the team is of Caucasian people, but the aspect of just really understanding where somebody is standing or where somebody's coming from. And you did mention it's called the Taruvinga in Senegal. Taruvinga, right. We've got a certain type of that, which is called Ubuntu. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Ubuntu.
Yes, I am, because you are. And for those that are listening right now, Ubuntu is just a philosophy that recognizes, the sameness in human beings. So right now, I am the host of the Online Prosperity Show only because you, the viewer, is watching, or because Melanie is the guest. If I turn off the camera and I walk out my door, I no longer am the host of the show. I now have to see who is in front of me and what am I in relation to them. So either I'm a dad or I'm a puppy owner. Do you know what I mean? But some people take whatever role they already are. They want to be the doctor in their household, or they want to be the manager in their household, and it doesn't work like that. And that's the reason why so many people come across so many different clashes, because they forget who they are in context of the person in front of them or the situation that they're in. And leadership just, comes from places where you least expect. But this is not my jam. This is Melanie's story. So you then had to come back home and, first day of business. Tell us, what was that? Did you fix everything on your desk? Was everything aligned? And, was the mouse in its right place? And what was the first day like?
First day of my business?
Yes.
So nothing was set up. I basically, after I started it, so I kicked it off one afternoon, and then the next day I was kind of twiddling my thumbs and I'm like, what do I do? So I started to do some stakeholder mapping. I started to look at who were the people in my network, who did I need to connect to, who was, who were the people that would advocate for me, who were the people that I needed to probably reconnect with, and who were the people who were kind of aspirational to my network. They weren't yet in there, but I wanted to connect with them. And what I realized really quickly as well is I went through that process. I started to build some baseline thinking around what I wanted to achieve with my business. And then I kind of sat back and went, I don't know how to find clients, how to attract clients, how to engage clients. Like, I actually don't. I know how to coach. I know how to develop people. But all of those other skills, I've come from big corporate. There were functions of people who did those things. We had comms and marketing teams. We had learning and development specialists. We had finance people and all of that. So the first thing I did is I took a piece of my own advice. If I'm expecting anybody to come to me as a coach, if they're feeling lost, I went out and I found myself a business coach. And that person, so within 2 weeks of starting my business, I was already working with a business coach who helped me, with my mindset, because it's a big shift going from corporate to running your own business. I came with, 20 years of experience and all of this value to add, but it felt like I was starting on the first day, right? It felt like I was just a newborn baby in the space. And so working with a business coach helped me to work on my mindset, but then it also gave me structure, processes, price points, marketing advice, like all of these tools that, had I not have worked with them, I'd probably still be working stuff out and making lots more mistakes and taking a lot of time to kind of build the business. So that's what my first kind of couple of weeks looked like. The first day, I really didn't have a clue. I was like, okay, I've started this thing. I don't want to sit and watch Netflix. What's next? Trying to work it out.
Absolutely. And I think you did the right thing, because so many people waste a lot of time wanting to get started, and procrastination kicks in, and then you start doubting yourself, and all of a sudden you're like, maybe this is not the right thing for me. But like what you did, you went on and got a business coach, and a business coach would shortcut the learning curve, all the things that you would have learned, and things like that. So you did mention you were definitely shifting from a well-supported corporate environment with all these roles and people that are in there to running a one-woman show, so to speak. Absolutely. Yeah. Were there any fears that you faced? Obviously you had a coach, but were there any fears that were really present? Because I know there will be something there.
How long have you got? I had fears that no one would want to work with me. I had fears that maybe my coaching skills wouldn't be up to the right level. I had fears about putting myself out there and marketing myself. I had fears that people would laugh at me. It was just all sorts of irrational fear. And it kind of sits there in the back of your brain. And what I had to actively do was, I'm a strengths-based coach, so I talk a lot about strengths, but my second from the top strength is bravery. So for me, when I'm feeling all of these fears, the best thing I can do is take action. And so I'd be like, I'm scared of putting myself out there. Screw it. Just put yourself out there, right? Just do it. I'm scared that people won't think I'm good enough. Oh, well, if they don't think I'm good enough, we're not the right client fit, right? So I found ways of talking to myself to overcome some of those fears. And when I was struggling, then I lent on the support of others. So I'd talk to my business coach, or I'd talk to people that I'd worked with, or I'd find people that I could kind of go, is this me in my head, or is it actually something I should be fearful of here, so that I could kind of combat it with common sense and evidence rather than just letting myself sit and fester in it.
Absolutely. But you prevailed. And, let's talk about the first 12-month milestone. I mean, we've spoken about the first day, and it's quite noteworthy, especially when many startups or many businesses don't, because, there's always that thing rearing over your head. Am I good enough? Imposter syndrome starts kicking me in. And if you haven't got a coach, you wouldn't even know where to start. And then you're looking at LinkedIn, everybody seems to be having their stuff together, and social media doesn't help, especially in this realm. So what sort of strategies did you implement that you can attribute to this success?
So there were a few key things that I needed to do in my business to get momentum going and to keep momentum going, I guess. And a part of it was my business development activity. And then there's the marketing activities and the building of my brand. So I was starting fresh. I needed to get my name out there, and I needed to be known for something. And when it came to those activities, I think the thing that worked best for me is I was so disciplined and consistent in implementing those activities. So every single day, I knew what my non-negotiables were every day, and I showed up, rain, hail, or shine, good, bad, or ugly. I showed up and I delivered on those things. And I think that consistency, people think consistency is boring, right? It's boring. It's like so repeatable, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is that momentum doesn't happen. You don't get a viral video when, just off by chance. There might be 1,000 videos that happen before you actually hit a viral video. So for me, it was about show up, do the damn thing, and then keep doing the damn thing until you start to get the traction that you need to get, and you start building that brand in the way that you want to, and you start attracting the clients that you really want to work with. So that's what I did, just showed up. And it's interesting coming out of a big corporate, because people say to me, oh, wow, it must be so stressful running your own business. And it is stressful, don't get me wrong, but I'm showing up for me every day. I'm showing up for me with my own expectations. If I screw something up, I screw it up, and that's on me. But when I'm showing up for myself, I feel very, very committed to doing the things that I need to do to grow the business and to achieve success.
Obviously, I mean, when you're doing it for somebody else, first of all, you're not even certain if tomorrow they're going to want you back. I mean, given the scenario that you encountered, I mean, it would have been something else for you to have gone back and still expect that, there will be some form of security in whatever you're doing. But if you're doing stuff for your own, everything is a building block towards something remarkable, so good on you for choosing yourself. But your approach really emphasizes on authenticity. Like you're saying, you were just showing up come hell or high water, what's and all, and resilience. Some people would have been seeing the crickets getting louder and louder inside of their phone, and they'll just decide to just maybe filter themselves into the backyard there. Now, how did these values of authenticity and resilience shape the methods that you also take your clients through, or your coaching methods? Because this is crucial, Yeah,
so I think that the recognition and the leverage of strengths is something that definitely comes through very strongly. So I recognize what my strengths are and I leverage them every day. And a large part of the way that I work with my clients is about optimizing the way that they use their strengths. So understand your strengths, but leverage them effectively so that you can get to the outcome that you want to get to. I think I'm a pretty positive person. And I'm very action oriented, as I was saying earlier. So for me, with my clients, it's all about let's look forward, focus on your strengths, but develop those strategies and those actions, because doing something every day is taking you towards your goal, not away from it. I think for myself, what I've learned about myself over the last 12 months is that when the chips are down, I'm a hustler. And I would never have considered myself to be that way before, but I'm the person who is going to find a way. I'm going to find a way through. I'm going to start to think creatively. I'm going to be brave and connect in ways that I hadn't connected before. And I think that, you know, trying to help my clients to think broadly. A lot of people I work with, they come in and they've kind of got, this is where I've been in my career and I want to go over here, but I don't know how to get there. And I'm like, let's be creative. What's adjacent? What connections do you have? How are you leveraging them? So it's really that kind of problem solving approach that I apply to myself. I then help them find in themselves. And one of my clients told me that he feels that I'm like given him an M.E.D.I.A in problem solving, because he now starts to think differently when something comes up. Instead of having a one-track view of things, he's like breadth in the different perspectives that he utilizes to try and solve a problem. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
I like that. I like that a lot there, Melanie, because so many people, and I blame school for that. And I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect, because in school, you're supposed to give the right answer. And if you don't know the right answer, then you get somehow punished for not knowing the right answer, which is failed grades and things of that nature. So that is the fashion that everybody then just goes along with, because as you would know about, you know, anything can happen while we're recording this video, and we just need to be able to deal with it in the way that it has occurred. But so many people want it in a certain way. You know, they want, send me the answers before everything has to be spick and span, just so they don't fail. But I like the thing about you look at leadership through the lens of humanity and sustainability. And that's the opposite of what it's supposed to be, because leadership is about, let's get it right, you know, bottom lines, return on investment, and everything else along the lines, you know. And there's a very unique angle, this humanity and sustainability sort of aspect. How did this perspective develop?
I think through seeing good leadership, I think is one part of it. And I think through experiencing bad leadership, right? So those leaders that you're describing, where they're kind of straight down the line and it's just results. I think there's enough evidence out there that proves that that only works in certain environments or certain situations. I'm not saying that there's no place for it, because sometimes there is. Like if you're in the military and you're sending soldiers out to war, you're responsible for people's lives. You best be very clear, but even then you can apply humanity, to be honest. I just think, so maybe it comes back to, I actually didn't do very well in school. I didn't like rope learning things. I placed much more importance on experiences and how people made me feel. And, you know, for someone who wasn't very good in school, I've done kind of okay for myself. So maybe what it is I haven't got this fixed mentality of what something should look like. And that gives me the flexibility and agility to adjust my approach, which has then helped me to see that there's more than one way of doing things. So that, from a humanity perspective, then underpins my attitude to people from all walks of life, because I'm very open, because I know that, you know, there's more than one way to live. There's more than one way to be. There's more than one way to engage. And so when you take that view and then you apply it in to a leadership role, it means I'm wanting to listen to who you are and what you're about and how you're feeling, and then being flexible enough to be able to adjust my approach to suit the person in front of me. So it is a bit of that Ubuntu piece around, you know, I need to be flexible and I need to adjust. But I feel like my belief system has just been the richness of the people that I've had around me. And I think about, if I had been closed-minded and missed all of that, like, who would I actually be? I wouldn't have these intense, rich experiences of life had I been closed down to it. So in a leadership, like it's kind of like a microcosm, right? When you think about leadership, if you can think about the experiences that you could miss if you've got your blinkers on, if you can connect people to each other's experiences and you get that diversity of thought, then you've got a more engaged workforce, you've got better ideas, better solutions. That's, I guess, where it comes from. And I feel that when you don't fear failure, maybe I did when I was younger, I don't fear failure now, because I see that every step that I take, if it's a misstep, it's a lesson. And I really, truly believe that. And I can learn from it and I can grow from that. But that takes vulnerability, right? So some of the content I put on LinkedIn, it's not perfect. And I'm like, whatever, put it out, right? Take it or leave it. This is me. Take me or leave me. And so if you think about that in a leadership context of demonstrating it's okay to not be perfect, it's okay to make mistakes, it's all about how we come back from those mistakes, then that vulnerability allows others to be vulnerable. It allows them to show up as the people that they really are, which then allows more connection, which then allows more engagement. When people are more engaged, they're more productive. It's like this, positive kind of cycle. So yeah, I think my life experiences set me up for this. And it's just transitioned into the way that I live in all parts of my life, including the way that I see leadership.
Absolutely. And it's very beautiful to unravel all of this. I mean, obviously starting off in Singapore, then coming back to Australia, then doing a bit of a Senegalese stint, and then also coming back over here again. But somebody who might be following this journey might just think, wait a minute, does this actually work on the real humans in Australia, or is it something that will only work, in an overseas setting? Because, things have always been the way they've always been. And if anyone wants to pop up in the Australian settings, guess what? Tall Poppy just sneaks in and does its own thing right there. Maybe you can share with us a success story where your coaching has made a significant impact on a client's career without obviously maybe mentioning names or things of that nature. But if we can see that this actually works on humans.
Well, probably works on humans more than it works on animals. So there's one client that kind of pops to mind, and he is an Australian. And I think the value of what I bring to people is, coaching is about helping people create insights for themselves. And we do that through helping to put different perspectives on the table and unpack what's going on and get to know yourself better. And for this particular individual, he recently divorced. He's got some children that he has had primary care responsibilities for. He was actually working part-time, which is often seen as career limiting for men to take on additional caring responsibilities. And he was looking to kind of re-engage and re-accelerate his career. And part of the challenge that he had, and what I find with most people, the challenge is here, right? Part of my program, we identify technical gaps. What are the technical gaps for you to be able to step up to that next level? 9 times out of 10, there's very few, if any, technical gaps. It's all about what's happening in my self-talk, what's happening in my self-awareness, how am I going to put myself out there, raise my brand, ask for the opportunities, whatever it might be. And working with this individual, there was a bit of, can I do it? Should I do it? What if I fail kind of talk going on? And I was able to use different tools and thinking and techniques and lots and lots and lots of coaching questions to help him to get over some of those self-limiting beliefs. He is now getting through to final interviews for roles at that next level. He is much more confident in asking for the things that he wants and sticking to his values around the flexibility that he wants to be able to provide that continued care for his kids. And he's just a more confident person overall. And that's just one of like many stories, but going through the process of investing in himself and having that willingness to reflect, having that willingness to be challenged, having that willingness to see things from different perspectives and different points of view has been his success. Because the reality is, I can only take a client as far as they want to take themselves. Coaching is work. The mirror is being put up constantly. And when the mirror is put up, it's then, what are you going to do with it? And what are you going to do with it? There's a piece of accountability around it as well, right? There's a lot of, how am I showing up in this situation that's impacting in a way I don't like? And how do I need to show up differently? I had one client who we got about halfway through their coaching program and they said to me, this is really hard. And I'm like, okay, talk to me about that. What's hard about it? And they said to me, I now know all these things that I'm doing that aren't helpful, but when I'm in the moment, it's so hard to pull myself back from doing the thing that I know is not going to be helpful. And it takes a lot of energy and effort. And I reassured them and let them know that, you know, practice and consistency in terms of making those shifts will make it easier over time, but it's work. It is work. And you have to be willing to be doing the work on yourself to get the results that will get you through.
Absolutely. And congratulations on all those successes, because it's not easy. You're dealing with yet another human being and they see the world in a whole different way. And it's the stories that we tell each other or ourselves, etc. Yeah. Now, if somebody's looking to become a better leader that they're meant to be, where would we direct them on the internet so they can find you, Melanie?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Melanie Smith. I'm in Australia, in Sydney, Australia. You can find me there, or you can find me through my website, which is metanoiaconsulting.com.au. And you can book in a time. I've got a little button that will take you directly to my calendar to book a time in.
Absolutely. Definitely. We'll put all those links in the show notes so that people can obviously get started and, look at you. Now, you've along the journey sort of been weaving the support you've been receiving from your partner and everything else. I mean, for those that are also looking to start their business, how important is it to have the right people and the right support? You also had a coach that helped you right at the beginning of your journey, because I think a lot of people subscribe to the lone ranger or, the lone wolf scenario where, back in the time, people were self-made, they're looking for a garage that they can, get started in. I tried to take photos in my garage. There's not enough space in there for me to put a table. So you can imagine. Just, maybe you can give us a bit of a comment on how important it is to just surround yourself with people and
So humans are not built to do things by themselves. We're just not built that way. Whether it be the support of a partner, whether it be having clients, whether it be, friends and family that have got your back and they're in your corner, it's really, really important to have the support network around you. And I do believe that people who go it alone, they're going to put a little brick on their heads and they're going to cap their growth. Because at the end of the day, we're a race, we're a species that has always relied on others to get to where we need to go. And it is this diversity of thought, it is the diversity of skill sets, it's the diversity of roles around us that actually make us be successful. So I would not be successful in this business if it wasn't for my partner. The unwavering support he gives me, the confidence he has in me when I don't have confidence in myself, when I have those moments. And he's like, nah, you've got this. Like, let's look at all the things that you've done, those reminders, the friends who have very much at the beginning pushed my content out to people around them, who have connected me through to people. The organizations that have taken a punt on me, the clients that I've worked with, we don't do any of these things by ourselves. Those people who think they're sitting in a garage and they're doing things alone, well, they're wrong, because if you did it by yourself, for yourself, with yourself, then you'd never get your product out there. You'd never be able to scale. You'd never be able to push your momentum forward. So even though I work in the business myself, I have plenty of support networks around me who are all doing different things in terms of the ways that they support me. And I think if you're trying to go it alone, there's no medal that you get at the end for, having the hardest road traveled. I feel like the more that you'll have plenty of medals along the way when you've got lots of support from people who are giving you a pat on the back on the way through. But why be a martyr? Why be a martyr? It would be my question to those people.
Absolutely. Well, now, Melanie, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, obviously, you shared with us your journey and all these valuable insights, but it would be remiss for me to not ask, the wrap-up question. What's next? What can we expect in the future?
What's next? Look, I'm going to grow, that's for sure. So my plan is to start to look at how I can pull more people in and do some group coaching so that I can start to connect more clients together so that they have an even more valuable growth journey. I'm rolling out this year some kind of learning and development series with a bunch of different organizations. And I'm starting to look at my own kind of podcast, which is very much focused around the diversity lens. So lots of things coming up, lots of things in the pipeline. I was a diligent person and built my business plan for the year. And now is a really good time for me to just get on and start delivering to that.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to celebrate all those milestones with you. I'll just be out there, looking with my spidey eyes. But Melanie, I can't thank you enough for the time that you've spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience really brings a breath of fresh air, especially when it comes to leadership development, because so many people, as we have established, are just one-track minded and not really open enough to really explore what other people bring to the table, and also not authentic and have a hustle mindset, which you seemingly possess, which has allowed you to create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. So thank you so much for the journey and for sharing it with us today on the Online Prosperity Show. Thank you so much, Prosper. It's been fun. Absolutely. And for our listeners, thank you too for watching up until this far. Obviously, there was something that was of interest to you. If you're eager to transform your career and obviously enhance your leadership skills, I want you to consider reaching out to Melanie at Metanoia ConsultingServices, and she'll be able to find something that suits the journey that you are on. And if you're interested in more of this type of content, stay tuned for our next episode, where we're going to be exploring ideas to enhance your happiness and well-being. And if you found today's discussion helpful, please share this podcast with somebody who might benefit from it. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content like this. But I want you to remember one thing. The first step towards change is embracing new perspectives, and take that step today. Bye for now.